Erev Tov and good evening, everyone. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parsha's Vayeira tonight, Os Aleph, section 1, the first section. In the sefer, it's Daf Kuf Ayin Gimel. I'm going to ask, we're going to dedicate tonight's learning for a refuah shlema for a person who is undergoing a liver transplant surgery actually right now as we're learning. So please have in mind the name Amnon ben Chana. Amnon ben Chana for a refuah shlema in terms of dedicating our learning, but also if you can say a kapitel Tehillim and have him in mind for a refuah shlema. He is truly a cholish yesh bo sakana, a person who's in great danger and undergoing a very delicate and important, a critical surgery. We're going to take a look at the first pasuk in our parsha and the first Rashi, and then we'll get right into the Zera Shimshon, who discusses the pasuk and the Rashi. So, Parsha's Vayeira begins as follows. This is Perek Yud Ches Pasuk Aleph. Vayeira elov Hashem, and Hashem appeared to him, meaning to Avraham, be'elonei Mamre, in the elonei of Mamre. There's a lot of discussion about how to translate both of those words. We will go with a simple translation of elonei, meaning the trees, a certain type of tree, of Mamre that belonged to a friend, an ally of Abraham's named Mamre. So Hashem appeared to Avraham in the tree groves that belonged to Mamre. V'hu Yoshef Pesach ha'ohel, and Avraham was sitting at the opening of his tent, kechom hayom, in the heat of the day, or as if it was in the heat of the day. So that's the pasuk. Hashem is appearing to Avraham in a specific place, and Avram is sitting outside, and it's the heat of the day. So Rashi says, Vayeira elav, and Hashem appeared to him, levaker es hachole, to visit the sick. Why was Avraham considered a chole? So we have to think back to the end of last week's Parsha of Lech Lecha, and at the end of the Parsha, Hashem gave Avraham the mitzvah of bris milah, of circumcision, and commanded Avraham to circumcise himself and all the members of his household. So the Torah tells us that Avraham circumcised himself. He was 99 years old at the time, and Yishmael, his son, was 13 years old at the time. And in addition, all of Avraham's avodim, all of his servants, were all circumcised. So this Parsha of Vayeira is coming right after that incident. So Avraham was ailing. Avraham was not well. So Hashem came to visit him, according to Rashi, levaker es hachole, to visit Avraham because he was sick. Rashi continues. Amar Rabbi Chama bar Chanina. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina said, Yom Shlishi lemiloso haya. This was the third day after Abraham's bris milah. Uva HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'sho'al b'shlomo. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and inquired about Abraham's welfare. So Hashem came and wanted to talk to Abraham and so to speak, see how he was doing. So that is the pasuk and the Rashi. And now let's look at the Zera Shimshon's comments. Pasuk. The pasuk says, Vayeira elov Hashem, Hashem appeared to him. That's the pasuk we just read. Purish Rashi. Rashi explains, levaker es hachole, to visit a sick person, to visit Avram who was sick. Amar Rami bar Chama, you can see that the Zera Shimshon had a different text in Rashi, in which this is Rami bar Chama talking as opposed to our text, our girsa in Rashi, which said Rabbi Chama bar Chanina. Nonetheless, we'll go with the name of Rami bar Chama. Amar Rami bar Chama said, Yom Shlishi lemiloso haya. This was the third day after the bris. Uva HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Hashem came to inquire about his welfare, v'chule, etc. Ad kan Lashono, until here is the quote from Rashi. So the Zera Shimshon starts with the pasuk that we looked at and the Rashi, the first Rashi that we also looked at. Now the Zera Shimshon comments, Vikvar tzavachu bo kamai dekamai, and already the earliest of the commentaries have shouted about this statement in Rashi, this Rashi that we just read. My boy Rami bar Chama bozeh. What did Rami bar Chama need to bring in what he said? Shehaya yom shlishi lemiloso, that it was the third day after Avram's bris milah. Uminole shahaya dafka yom shlishi. How did Rami Bar Chama know that it was specifically the third day after Avram Avinu's bris milah? How could Rami Bar Chama possibly know that? There doesn't seem to be any possible indication in the pasuk that it was the third day after Avram Avinu's bris milah. So why is Rami Bar Chama introducing this point? And where in the world did he know that it was in fact the third day? V'gam, and also another question, ma shaychi divrei Rami Bar Chama loha shepirish Rashi? What connection is there between what Rami Bar Chama said about the third day with what Rashi had explained Batachila in the very beginning, levaker es achole, that Hashem came to visit Avraham who was sick? Meaning the second question means Rashi's comment was telling us why Hashem came and appeared to Avram. So Rashi said, why did Hashem appear to Avram? To do Bikur Cholim, to visit Avram who was healing and was unwell after his bris milah. But the comment that Rashi brings, and it's a quote from a Gemara in Bava Metzia about this statement of Rami Bar Chama about the third day, that has to do with when Hashem came to visit. So the Zera Shimshon is saying there doesn't seem to be an obvious connection. So why would Rashi make a statement about why Hashem came to visit and then bring it as a support, a statement about when Hashem came to visit? What is the shaychus? What is the relevance and the connection between those two things? The ode, and another question, this is the third question, yesh ledatek, we need to analyze, ech yiskasher sof ha-pasuk. How is there a connection between the end of the pasuk that says kechom hayom, that Avraham was sitting in the heat of the day, im Vayeira elov, with the first part of the pasuk that starts just a few words earlier? It's a short pasuk with Hashem appeared to him, to Avraham. Meaning Rashi's Zera Shimshon's third question is, the Chom Hayom, the piece of information about the heat of the day, doesn't seem to really be necessary in this pasuk. The pasuk should focus on the main message, the Zera Shimshon says, which is Hashem is appearing to Avraham. And okay, it tells us the place where this happened. And actually the next Rashi talks about why it mentions the specific place, but that's not for us right now. But why mention the heat of the day? Do we need to know that it was a hot day in order for the Torah to tell us that Hashem appeared to Avraham? So those are the Zera Shimshon's three questions. Just to quickly recap, the first question, and we might say the most basic question, is how did Rami Bar Chama possibly know that it was the third day after Avraham's bris that Hashem appeared to him? Number two, why did Rashi bring the whole statement of Rami Bar Chama, which deals with the subject matter of when did Hashem appear to Avraham, when Rashi's comment was about why Hashem appeared to Avram, which was to do Bikur Cholim. And then the third and the final question is simply about the pasuk itself. Why does it mention Kechom Hayom, the heat of the day? So the Zera Shimshon is going, of course, to give us building blocks in order to be able to tie together these three seemingly disparate elements. The element of Rashi saying Hashem appeared to do Bikur Cholim, that's why Hashem appeared to Avram. The element that Rami Bar Chama introduces about this being the third day after the bris, and the element about Chom Hayom, the heat of the day. The Zera Shimshon is going to tie that all together. Second paragraph, Venira Latares, and it would appear that we can explain, that we can answer. The Rami Bar Chama hirgish, that Rami Bar Chama felt there was a problem with this pasuk. The Maishno shehikpid HaKadosh Baruch Hu levaker es Avraham. What difference did it make? What was the real reason why Hashem was careful to come and visit Avram kedei lirifa'oso, in order to heal him, to assist in his healing? V'sholach lo Raphael lirifa'oso, and also sent the Malach Raphael, one of the three Malachim, who came to visit Avram. And of course, we know the famous story about how Avram convinced them to sit down and fed them a meal and prepared a feast for them and washed their feet and gave them water to wash their feet. So Rashi tells us later, when that story, which comes right after a few psukim later in the Parsha, Rashi identifies the malachim, and one of the malachim was Raphael, and Raphael's mission was to heal Avram. So the Zera Shimshon says, why is it that Hashem himself came to visit Avram in order to help to do Bikur Cholim and help Avram feel better? And Hashem also sent the Malach Raphael as one of the three Malachim specifically with a mission to heal Avram. V'lo hikpid l'refuas gam kol yelidei beso shenimolu ito. But nothing was done, seemingly, to help with the healing of all of the other people in Avram's household. We mentioned a moment ago that at the end of Parsha's Lech Lecha, the Torah is very clear and very explicit to say this wasn't just a mitzvah that Avram did. Avram did a bris milah on himself. Yishmael had a bris milah. Eliezer and the other avodim, the other servants, had a bris milah. The Torah specifically says all of the households, all of the males of the household, including the servants, were circumcised. So why is it the Zera Shimshon says? Why is it that that Hakadosh Baruch Hu was doing all these things to help Avram heal, but apparently no attention was being paid to the other people who had a bris milah? The Zera Shimshon is not asking this question himself. He's saying this question is what bothered Rami Bar Chama about this pasuk. And he continues, V'chikach osin levinei levia. Is this how we should treat, how Hashem Kaviyachol should treat the other people who accompanied Avram in doing this mitzvah, right? We shouldn't ignore them. All of these people had undergone and went through a very hard procedure, a painful procedure, and it wasn't just babies, they were doing this as adults. So shouldn't they be given attention to? Shouldn't they be healed? And shouldn't something be done to help them get past and get over this difficult, traumatic experience? V'lama lo matzinu b'divrei Razal remez mizeh. Why don't we find anywhere in the words of Chazal, the Zera Shimshon says, a hint about this? Shegam yelidei beso nisrapu ito. That also the members of Abraham's household were healed along with him. There's no mention of that at all. Why not? Eladavka omru lirfuas es Avraham v'sulo. The Torah only tells us about Hashem's efforts in healing Avram and nothing else. Where no mention is made of the other people who also had a circumcision. Elavadai tzarech lomar, but definitely we must say, we are compelled to conclude, sheyelidei beso lo hayu tzrichim l'refuah, that the members of Avram's household were not in need of healing. For some reason, and the Zera Shimshon will get into this in a moment, they didn't need the refuah. That's the only answer that one can suggest, according to the Zera Shimshon. They didn't need any extra activities, any extra help in terms of healing. Only Avraham did. And that must be why the Torah only talked about Hashem's efforts to visit Avram and to send Raphael, the Malach, to heal Avram. That must be the reason why all these efforts were made for Avraham, but were not made for any of the other people who had a circumcision. Now, why would that be that no one else needed support or assistance? Let's continue. Bottom paragraph in the first column. V'hatam shelo hayu tzrichim, and the reason that the other people besides Avram Avinu did not need any help with their healing, mishum de'isa b'Baba Basra perakama, is based on a Gemara in the first parak of Baba Basra. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer. Over there, the Gemara is talking about what does the Torah mean when it says towards the end, when it's talking about the end of Abraham's life, and it says Hashem had blessed Abraham bakol, with everything. So the Gemara brings down several opinions amongst different Tanoim as to what the Torah meant when it said that Abraham was blessed bakol, with everything. What was this? What did this reference, this use of the word with everything, mean in the Torah? So Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, Margalis tova hayasa teluya b'tzavaro shel Avram. There was a precious stone that hung from the neck of Avraham. Shekol chole sheroeh osa. Every sick individual who looked at this precious stone, miyad misrape, was immediately healed. So this is what the Gemara in Baba Basra teaches us, that Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai states that Avraham Avinu Hashem had blessed Avraham with the possession of a precious stone that had the power to heal sick individuals simply by having the ill individuals look at the precious stone. The Hikshu betosvos, and Tosos on that Gemara asked the question, V'habi me Avraham akati lo hayacholi ba'olam. Tosos says, wait a minute. In the days of Avraham Avinu, there shouldn't have been any ill people or sick people who needed to be healed by this precious stone. Why were there no sick people, according to Tosfos? Because the Gemara in the 7th parak of Bava Metzia says, Ad Yaakov lo have chulsha. Until Yaakov Avinu, there was no illness, there was no sickness until Yaakov Avinu. It started during the lifetime of Yaakov Avinu. That's what the Gemara says in Bava Metzia. So Tosfos says, if there was no illness, then why would Avraham have this healing stone to help people be healed when there would be no need for it? There were no ill people. The Tirtzu and Tosfos answers the hacha that here, when we're talking about sick people benefiting from the precious stone, b'choli shel maka aire. It's talking about sickness that came from the wound that they had from the bris milah. Meaning, according to Tosfos, the precious stone that Avram had, that had the power of healing, was used and was of tremendous benefit to people if they had suffered wounds. In other words, if someone had an illness, that type of thing, a sickness or an illness, that type of thing only started later in the lifetime of Yaakov Avinu. But people were injured in war, people were wounded, people could be hurt from a fall, people could be hurt or injured in lots of different ways. And those people, such as the members of Avram's household who had a bris milah, circumcision, they did suffer from the pain of that circumcision, and they benefited from the precious stone that Avraham had. Ubal Amudei Shiva, and the author of the sefer Amudei Shiva, Hosif Lahakshos, he adds an additional question. Eich haya Avraham rofe velo lo. How could it be that Avram had the ability to heal others through this precious stone, but not himself? How could it be that he couldn't heal himself? Lama lo histakel b'margolis tovo. Why did Avram himself not gaze at this precious stone, shahayasalo b'tzavaro, that was hanging around his neck? Why didn't Avram heal himself? V'soval tsar v'ke'ev b'chinam. Instead, Avraham put himself through the suffering and the pain b'chinam, for no reason, because he had the precious stone. So why didn't Avram himself use it? That question brings us to the crux of the matter in the main building block that the Zera Shimshon wants to get to in order to help us put all the pieces together. So let's take a look at that now as we go into the next paragraph. Uledidon lo kasha midi. According to our approach, which the Zera Shimshon is about to explain, there's no problem at all. She'in hachinami, that absolutely it is true, sheyelidei beso nisrapu miyad, that the members of Avram's household, meaning all of the men who were circumcised besides Avram himself, were immediately healed. O biyom rishon, o biyom sheni, either on the first day when Avram circumcised himself, or on the next day. Lefisha nistaklu b'margalisha b'tzvaro, because all they had to do was look at this precious stone that Reb Shimon ben Yochai taught us was hanging around Avram's neck, and that had the power to heal people who had wounds, such as these people did. Aval Avraham lo rotza lehistakel bo, but Avraham did not wish to gaze at the stone, and he did not do so. Hidei lekabel yoser schar, in order to receive more reward for the mitzvah of bris milah. The lefum tsara agra, because we know the famous quote from Pirkei Avos, which is, according to the suffering, so as the reward. The more difficult it is to do a mitzvah, the more pain or trouble or aggravation or efforts that have to be invested by a person, by an individual to accomplish, to fulfill a mitzvah, the more reward comes to that person. So Avram Avinu, knowing this great teaching, felt that it would be important for him to undergo the pain and the suffering and not immediately heal himself through the use of the precious stone as everyone else in his household did. And that explains why no one else needed a refuah and only Avram Avinu did need other things to help him heal. The ode, and another reason Avram didn't want to look at the stone, lefisha mitzvah zu hi achas me'asar nisyono shelo. Avram Avinu knew that this mitzvah of bris milah was one of his 10 tests, his 10 great tests. Im haya misrape miyad, and if he would have healed himself immediately, lo haya ze nechshav l'nisayon, then this could hardly be considered a real test. Shahayu omrim ha'olam, because the world would say, shahatam shenisratza Avram l'tzivoy ha'makom shel hamilah, that the real, so to speak, hidden reason why Avram Avinu was so quick to agree to Hashem's commandment to have a bris milah at age 99 years old. Avram said, yes, Hashem, of course I'll do the bris milah immediately, and he did so. People will say, why did he do that? Lefisha hayodea, because Avraham knew sheyesh biyodo lerafos atzmo miyad, that he had the power to heal himself immediately. He would do the bris milah, and certainly we can understand that during that action, Avram would feel pain, but then he could immediately look at the precious stone and be healed. So the cynical of the world and the scoffers of the world would say that's why Avram so quickly accepted and embraced the mitzvah of bris milah, because he could heal himself immediately. And that's another reason why Avram Avinu did not wish to look at the stone. But rather he wanted and he decided to continue on with the pain of this of the circumcision, in order to show to everyone that he was undergoing and accepting the pain of the circumcision, with love, the samach ba, and he rejoiced in the experience. Avram wanted to show and teach the correct way to deal with the pain or the trouble or the suffering that sometimes comes with a mitzvah. And he showed people that not only did it not bother him or disturb him, he intentionally passed on the opportunity to remove the pain and the suffering immediately, as the other members of his household had done. He passed on that. He refrained from doing that in order to show his love for the mitzvah and his love for following the commandments of Hashem. Umishum hachi mida keneged mida, and because of this, his reward was measure for measure. Ba HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'refa'oso, so Hashem came to heal him. Hashem said, you wanted to show honor to me by staying in pain and refraining from healing yourself and showing how much you love the mitzvah. I will come myself to heal you and to visit you and to help you heal. V'zehu Vayeira love Hashem, and this is what Rashi meant when he said, on the words Hashem appeared to him, Rashi said, levaker es hacholeh. Hashem came to visit the choleh, the sick person, the sick Avraham, meaning the Rashi was saying, why did Hashem come? In order to give Avram this mida keneged mida, this measure for measure reward for his incredible commitment and devotion to the mitzvah of bris milah, that he refrained from healing himself as he could have done and remained in pain and illness from the circumcision. And this visit by Hashem, you must say, Shahaya b'yom hashlishi, that it was on the third day. Now we can see the Zera Shimshon is going back to his original first question. How did Rami Bar Chaman possibly know that Hashem came to visit Avram on the third day? So the Zera Shimshon says, I've given you the building blocks. Now at this point, we can explain how it had to be on the third day. Because if Hashem had come on the second day, lo hayu yodim kol ha'olam shenisrape biyodo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then the world would never be able to know for sure that it was Hashem who came to heal him. Ela hayu omrim, but rather people would have said, shenistakel be'evan shelo. He looked at his amazing rock, his healing rock. Lefi shahaya kotz bitzar hamila, because Abraham was disgusted by, he couldn't bear the pain of the bris milah. So if Hashem had come and healed and visited Abraham to help him heal on the second day, people would not have known about that specific incident, but rather they would have said, look, Abraham's already up and walking around on the second day. He's healed. It must be he looked at that rock, that special healing rock. And even though people would have said, wait a minute, if he could have looked at the rock, why didn't he just do so on the first day when he had the bris milah? Why didn't he do so immediately? Zu eino raya kol kach. This would not have been such a proof that he didn't make use of the rock. Why? Shahayu yicholim lomar, because people would have been able to say, shahatam shelo nistakel. What's the reason that Abraham didn't immediately look at the precious stone and heal himself? Because he was involved in the mitzvah of circumcising all of his servants and all of the male members of the household. So the fact that Avraham Avinu wasn't healed on the first day, people would say that's not because he wasn't going to make use of the stone. Of course he made use of the stone. But on the first day, he was busy circumcising all of the people that needed to be circumcised. We know from other psukim in Chumash that Avram was an extraordinarily wealthy person, and he had a tremendous amount of servants and so here, when he circumcised his servants, it wasn't just one or two people. There were a lot of male servants and members of the household to circumcise. So he was busy on the first day. So if Hashem comes on the second day and heals Avram, and now Avram jumps up and is walking around and going back to his usual activities, people would say, you see, he used the healing stone just like everyone else in the household did. Continuing on to the next page. Umishum hachi, and because of this, himtin HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem waited, lavo, to come, dafka biyom hashlishi, specifically on the third day. Hashem could have visited Avram on the first day. He did not. Hashem could have visited Avram on the second day. He did not. Hashem specifically came on the third day. Kedei sheyedu hakol she'Avram hayesovel tsar hamila me'ahava, so that everyone would know that Avram had made a decision to live with the pain and the suffering of the Mila Me'ava out of love for Hashem and Hashem's commandments. V'lo hayakotz bo klal, and he wasn't disgusted by it at all. Avram had no feeling of, oh my goodness, I'm overwhelmed by the pain and I have to do whatever it takes to get rid of this pain, to eliminate this pain. Had he felt that way, he would have used the stone, but he didn't use the stone at any point. The ode, and more so, kechom hayom, this expression at the end of the pasuk that Avram was sitting outside in the heat of the day, shezeh mochiach, this proves she'adarabba haya mishtadel lehisrapos ma'at b'derech hateva. This fact that Avram was sitting out in the sun shows that he was trying to heal himself through derech hateva, through natural means. By sitting in the sun, Avram felt that would help him begin to heal from the bris milah in a natural, gradual way. The Moshe Amru Zichronim Levracha, as Chazal say, Hado Amra, this says to us, Shimshon me'ale lamaka. The sun helps heal. The sun is beneficial for a wound. Ve'az miyad nigla lov HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And once Hashem saw that Avram was sitting out in the sun, committed to not looking at the precious stone and not doing anything to quickly, immediately heal, but rather to slowly and gradually heal through natural means, including sitting outside in the sun, Hashem said, I'm coming to visit him now, because no one can question his dedication. No one would think on the third day that Avram used the stone, because if he was going to use the stone, certainly he would have used it before the third day. So at this point, we can pause for a moment to see that the Zera Shimshon has now shown us how the different elements fit together. Rashi talked about Hashem visiting Avraham, and we see that was visiting Avraham after his bris milah in order to begin the process in order through Bikur Cholim to begin the process of healing and helping Avraham feel better and helping Avraham recover. And in addition to that, we know that it must have been the third day, because if it was on the first day or the second day, then that would have defeated Avram's whole goal, which is to make sure that he was being a role model, and Avram did not want anyone to think that he took the easy way out and that he quit and that he used the precious stone that he had in order to heal and take away the pain and the suffering of the bris milah. So we know that it couldn't have been those days. Zera Shimshon will deal with how it couldn't have been a further day, like the fourth or the fifth, in a moment. But we see the idea of the third day already, and we understand the significance of Kechom Hayom. That was the third element and the third part of the questions that the Zera Shimshon posed in the beginning. By Avram sitting in the heat of the day, it showed that he was committed to a gradual, natural healing process. And Hashem said, now everyone sees that Avram did not take the easy way out, and he's still sitting in pain out in the sun. I'm going to come and begin to heal Avraham, to bring a refuah to Avram. V'hashta osi shapir, and now everything becomes clear. Muchach divrei Rami Bar Chama, the proof that Rami Bar Chama brought sheyom shlishi limiloso haya, that it was the third day after Avraham's bris milah. V'shayach shapir l'maydika amar mitachila levakar esachola, and we understand how Rami Bar Chama's statement about it being the third day isn't just a kind of technical side point about when Hashem came to visit. No, it is an essential point that brings us to the heart of the story as to why Avraham waited so long and why Hashem waited until the third day. Hashem could have come right immediately to do Bikur Cholim. Hashem waited to the third day because Avraham wanted to wait and did not want anyone to think that he had any problem with the pain and the suffering and was trying to get rid of it quickly in some kind of miraculous or unnatural way. The Kula Chada Milsahi, we now see that it's all one matter. It's all connected. All three elements in the first pasuk are connected. Ume'ata ein makom lahakshos. And now that we understand this, there's no place to ask a question that you might think to ask. The Dilma Yom Dalet Ohei Havit. You might think, okay, it couldn't have been the first day or the second day, so it must have been the third day, but wait a minute, why not the fourth or the fifth day? Meaning, in a way, Hashem could have strengthened Avram's message by saying, look how long Avram waited. Look how long I waited before coming to visit Avram and help begin the healing process to the fourth day or the fifth day or the sixth day. A person might think that. How do we know it was the third day? The hala'achar she'over yom gimel, because after the third day passed, after a bris milah passes, ein marchitzin oso b'Shabbos. The Gemara in Masechta Shabbos teaches us, it's actually a Mishnah over there, and followed by the Gemara has a discussion about a baby after bris milah. We are no longer allowed to violate Shabbos to wash the baby if it's more than 3 days after the bris milah. Lefisha enod sakona, because there's no more danger to the baby once 3 days have passed. Ukasha ein sakona, and once there's no more danger, ein sorech l'refuah, then you don't have the same level of need for a cure. So the Zera Shimshon says, if Hashem was going to come to visit Avraham and to bring and to initiate the healing process for Avraham, then he would have done it on the first day or the second day or the third day, because based on the Gemara in Masechta Shabbos, we see that those are the days when not only is there pain, but there's sakana, there's danger. So that's when Hashem would have done it. But to do it on the fourth or the fifth or the sixth or any later day would not have made sense, because then, based on that Gemara in Shabbos, there's no more sakana, there's no more danger, and if there's no more danger, then Avram was not in need of a divine assistance with his healing. And now we come to the final paragraph that we're going to do in this piece. It goes longer after this paragraph to kind of go in a whole different direction. discuss some other issues. So let's take a look at the final paragraph that we're going to do tonight. V'leka lemeimar she'adayin hayamokom litos v'lomer she'avram nisrape me'atzmo b'histakluso be'evan tova. And we should not say that perhaps there's still cause for people to question and say, maybe Avram healed himself. And the fact that he didn't use the stone on the second day, that might be because the pain on the second day was not so great. Now, don't forget, we have to remember the Zera Shimshon already explained why people would not think he used the stone on the first day. Avram Avinu, according to this cynical approach, could have used the stone, wanted to use the stone, but he was too busy circumcising all of the many people who needed to be circumcised in his household, all of the male individuals, too busy to use the stone on the first day. But if Hashem had visited Avram, and if Avram had been healed on the second day, then everybody would have thought, oh, he must have used the stone. So now the Zera Shimshon says, perhaps people might have thought even on the second day, Avram did not use the stone because the pain wasn't so great. But on the third day, that's when he used the stone, because that's when the pain of a bris milah really hits in its most intense form. How do we know this? So the Zera Shimshon continues. Omnam b'yom hashlishi. However, on the third day, dichsiv, where the Torah tells us regarding the incident of Shechem, where Dinah was raped, and Yaakov Avinu's sons told the people of Shechem that if they would circumcise themselves, then there could be intermarriage between the two groups and everything would be fine, and Dinah could marry the prince and everybody would live together happily ever after. So the pasuk says, Vayihi bayom hashlishi, and it was on the third day after all of the townspeople of Shechem circumcised themselves, biyosem koavim, that they were in pain. Umitargaminon, and the Targum Onkelos on those words says, Kad takifu lahon kiv ehon. That is when the pain hit them. The pain attacked them. The pain was most acute on the third day after the bris milah. So we see from the way Onkelos understands that pasuk that it's the third day after the bris milah when the pain is most intense. So we might have, the cynical folk might have thought that's when Avram used the precious stone. Yes, he didn't use it on the first day because he was too busy. He didn't use it on the second day because the pain wasn't so bad. When the third day came and the pain really became intense, that's when he used it. People might think that. Azlo hayayochol lispo, and that's when Avram could no longer bear the pain. V'lo asa nisayon shalem, and that's why his successful test wasn't complete. He gave up. He couldn't take the pain, and he used the precious stone. The imkain lo hayalo lehakadosh baruch hu lehiskalus alav ela b'yom haravi, and therefore you might think, according to this way of cynical thinking, that Hashem shouldn't appear until the fourth day. Mishum hachi samich le, and that's why the Torah, right at the end of the first pasuk, says, "V'hu yoshev pesach ha'ohel kechom hayom." Avraham was sitting at the opening of the tent outside in the heat of the day, kemo she'amarnu, as we already have explained. So the Zera Shimshon is just kind of hammering home with this last paragraph, hammering home the vital importance of each of the different elements that we talked about. The point that Rashi made about Hashem coming to visit Avram to heal him. The point that why he brought in the quote from the Gemara and Rami Bar Chama about it being on the third day, and then Kechom Hayom. Why is the Torah emphasizing that Avram was sitting outside in the heat of the day? Because that shows everyone, even the most cynical people, that Avram was clearly trying to heal himself through natural pains, and he was prepared to go as long as he needed to go with the pain and with the discomfort, through natural means and no kind of intervention, and he was prepared to do that. So once Hashem felt and saw that Avram had done this and was committed to this approach, and everyone who knew what was happening with Avram after his bris milah would understand that, then Hashem came on the third day, and it could only be the third day because not the first, second, or later days, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc. None of those days would have worked and would have been the appropriate day for Hashem to come and visit Avram and initiate the healing. So we finished as far as we're going to go in this piece, and I don't think that we need, when we learn about Avram Avinu, we already know in our learning about him what an extraordinary human being he was, and we know so many reasons why he was the one who was chosen by Hashem to be the progenitor of Bnei Yisrael, of Klal Yisrael. But we can use this as one more proof to have a dedication that's so strong to doing mitzvos and to overcoming challenges in nisyonos, that a person is willing to say, I could easily eliminate the pain and suffering that I'm feeling, which was quite intense. And remember, he's 99 years old at the time of the bris milah, but to be able to say, no, I actually love and appreciate this pain and suffering because it's part of the mitzvah that Hashem gave me, one more reason, one more thing that helps us understand the greatness, the extraordinary greatness of Avram Avinu. Yasher koach to everyone who participated, and we look forward to learning Zera Shimshon again together, God willing, next week.